on WGBY Springfield.
The Boleyn's changed the course of English history.
Anne Boleyn's positioning herself as a woman of power on the political chessboard.
If you want to climb to the king, you have to climb over other bodies.
Whatever becomes of me, I'm resolved to have him.
Anne and her family are a force to be reckoned with.
I will strengthen my resolve.
No one could have imagined a fall as graphic as the fall of the Boleyn family.
The Story of the Boleyn, Sunday night at 8 on NEPM. Connecting Point on NEPM is brought to you by Berkshire Museum in Pittsfield, presenting Art of the Hills, Visual Evidence, a juried art exhibition celebrating the creative culture of the region, highlighting the works of both emerging and established Berkshire-based artists. More information at berkshiremuseum.org.
Coming up, we're connecting you with the creativity and culture in your community, including an institute best known for teaching girls how to rock.
I'm teaching the me I was when I was 16 and we had no support.
The spooky season starts early with a college-level course in horror movies.
It's a great commentary about the evil that exists behind the facade of the seemingly perfect suburbia.
And grab your cape and leave your secret identity behind as Comic Con comes to Springfield.
The expectation was pretty high, and I think they hit the ball out of the park.
Join us for those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point, your source for creativity, culture, and community. I'm Saidalis Bauer. Each week this summer, we're exploring all that Western New England has to offer, and today we're coming to you from downtown Springfield, Massachusetts, in the heart of Hampden County. The city hosts a number of big events throughout the year, from its first Pride Parade this spring to the world's largest pancake breakfast, the Parade of Big Balloons, and the annual Bright Night celebration, which rings in the holidays each December. But this summer, people came to the city from all over for a festival that has its roots in comic books and superheroes, but has become so much more. Comic Con began in 1970 in San Diego, California as the Golden State Comic Book Convention and has since gone on to become an annual international event. It's where pop culture, from movies to video games, comic books, and all points in between, is celebrated, oftentimes with lavish costumes and live-action roleplay. After being canceled in 2020 and 2021, Comic Con finally made it to Springfield, Massachusetts, and was met by an eager audience. Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan was there and brings us the story.
It's 10 a.m. on Saturday, July 23rd, outside the Mass Mutual Center in downtown Springfield. And this is the scene. It's where the unusual is the usual, and height, age, gender, and ethnic backgrounds are not determining factors in who can get involved. This is the line for Comic-Con, and while this event has been around since the early 1970s, the city of First was enjoying it for the first time on this hot midsummer's day. From the look of things, it appears to be something a lot of people did not want to miss.
Being the first big event that Springfield has had like this Comic-Con, it definitely is generating a lot of buzz. There's a lot of going on. The expectation was pretty high, and I think they hit the ball out of the park.
Visually, the convention delivered on what anyone may have expected. Wild costumes, comic books, figurines, plush toys, anime art, and everything in between. Basically, if there was a subgenre that came out within the past 100 years that had a fan base, chances are it was here. It was the kind of event where if anyone expected to find Iron Man rocking out to a band playing Iron Man, they wouldn't be disappointed. One surprise, however, was the number of charitable organizations involved. We found a couple of them on the perimeter of the room.
All of the work that we're doing with the droids we've built, the costumes that we've done, all of them are done through the talent and the ability of all of the people that are part of the group. And no kits involved. It's not something that we're getting from Disney or Lucasfilms, but yet everything we do, they put their thumb of approval on to make sure that we are doing things in a way that's appropriate to support the genre and support the charities.
It's all about the sex appeal. Yeah, everybody loves a Ghostbuster. No, it's the movies. You know, I grew up with the movies, and there's been a resurgence, especially now since Ghostbusters Afterlife came out. You know, it's a whole new generation getting into it, and you know, we can really use that to our advantage to help raise money for charity.
As an outsider, another surprise was just how much of a family-friendly event this was. And that applies not only to those in attendance, but also those behind the vending tables, where we found this father and son comic book creating team from the Boston area. The son does the illustrating, the dad does the writing, and the response to this collaborative effort has been incredible.
Our comics are about cops and robbers in Boston. The main characters are bad cop and good cop, except the thing is, bad cop is a little bit good and good cop is a little bit bad. We have a book series where there's where everybody's a protagonist and the antagonist at the same time.
I just think it's fun to, have something specific to do with your kids. I have a daughter too, and she likes softball, and we play catch. But this is, his thing, so I wanted to support, both his talent and then just his really hard work at it.
While the festivities continued on inside, around noontime, we thought we'd take a look outside to see if the lines had thinned out any. Quite the opposite, actually. Not only were they still there 2 hours after opening, but they had increased in size.
I didn't do an official head count, but this line actually starts all the way on Main Street, comes up State Street, and here we are on Dwight Street. So somewhere between 500 and 800 people still waiting to get in, and inside there's roughly 2,000 or so people. But I guess this is what happens for a lot of people that waited 2 years for this day to come.
Just feeling the cool breeze from the air-conditioned convention center upon entering the building may have made the long wait worth it. Now, there may have been some concerns earlier over capacity, but in the end, all ticket holders made it inside. As for the vendors, yes, the goal is to sell their wares and maybe even make a profit. But at the core of the experience is a good time for everyone involved.
It's mostly about having fun, making connections, and finding new readers, and just sort of, I like the reaction that he gets when I tell people. People don't know that he's the artist necessarily when they come up to the table. They're just kind of looking at the books, and then I say, hey, this is my 11-year-old son. He does all the art, and then they light up, and it's really fun to see him get that reaction, because kids that play sports have a million ways, get trophies and have applause and things like that, but this is sort of his arena to really shine.
If I make my money back, I'm cool with that. If I meet some cool people, that's even better. Having fun, getting my name out there, having, maybe somebody discover me as an artist would be a win. But I'll take what I can get.
And you can learn more about why people love Comic-Con and what it means to them in a digital extra.
Comic-Con is, people get together, engage with the characters that they love. People like to dress up, check out new independent creators like us, which is a lot of fun. It's an opportunity for us to get our work out in front of new people.
You can find that digital extra and so much more online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. The Lava Center and Greenfield Community College have partnered up to get a head start in welcoming the spooky season. For 6 weeks, GCC professor Lillian Ruiz offered an uncredited mini course for the community at the Lava Center entitled The Horror Film in Media and Popular Culture. The class offered 6 different iconic horror films throughout the decades for students to watch and review. I spoke with Ruiz to learn more about the course and the social commentary that the horror genre offers.
One of the things that we talk about in my class is the reason why people are attracted to this particular genre. And I think a lot of it has to do with catharsis, which is a Greek term about purging emotions, and that watching horror films is a way for us to be able to deal with some of our fears and to do it in a safe way and to purge them, basically, so that at the ending, we found a way to address those fears or at least try to confront them.
So let's talk a little bit about this mini course that happened this summer. Over the 6 weeks, you viewed and discussed 6 different films. Tell me about the films that you chose and why those were the films in particular that you wanted to share with the public.
So I started with The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which came out in the 1920s, and it's considered to be the first feature-length horror film. It's a wonderful commentary on some of the political anxieties and tensions of the time. It's a German film, and it is also a wonderful example of German expressionism. So visually, it's a stunning film, but it oftentimes is read as a film that's a commentary about authoritarianism and the German populist fear of authoritarian government. And then we moved forward to Dracula, and Dracula is considered the first American horror film. So that also seemed to be a very obvious fit. And Dracula has been read in lots of different ways, but oftentimes the most popular way is talking about the fear of the other or the fear of the outsider, as Dracula has a kind of reverse colonialism and imperialism as he attacks the British coming from a different nation. And then we moved forward to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and that film blends into the science fiction genre. So we were able to talk about genres at that point. But it also is a great commentary on the fear of communism in America during that time period. And then we went to the 1960s. And in my course, I would normally do two classes. I would do Psycho for the beginning of the 1960s and talk about what happens with isolationism and how it leads to mental deterioration. But for this particular Lava class, we ended up talking about Night of the Living Dead, which helped to bring about the whole genre of zombies. But it also featured a Black male lead, which was revolutionary for the time period. And he was the hero. So that was something that we could talk about. It's also a film, as George Romero says, who is the director of Night of the Living Dead, about revolution, because the 60s were such a turbulent time. And then we went forward to actually a film from the late 70s, but I use it as a representation of the 1980s. So I cheat again a little bit. And for this particular film, Halloween, we talk about how iconic this film is. And it helped to establish not just many of the tropes that we think of with slasher films, but it's a great commentary about the evil that exists behind the facade of the seemingly perfect suburbia. And it also helped to establish this idea of the final girl, a heroine who survives at the end. So we see a level of strength and independence, but that also is mitigated by the anxieties and fears and brutalities that she has to confront over the course of the film. And then we move forward to Get Out by Jordan Peele, which is the reason why this class exists. I remember the first time I saw that film and I was so impressed with it. I saw it in the theater that I thought to myself when I was leaving the theater that I have to find a way to construct a class that could focus on this particular film, which is a commentary on racism that existed post-Obama election. And at that particular point, 2016, 2017, there was the hope that we were living in a post-racial America. Obviously, that's not the case, very sadly, and we've seen the backlash to that election. But it also is a brilliant film. It's very self-conscious, very literary, very deliberate. And Jordan Peele was the first African-American horror film director to win an Academy Award.
I'm glad that you brought up how iconic Get Out was for this era, because that was probably one of the first films, like horror films in that genre that I've watched, that I had to come home immediately and start searching like symbolism and how it relates to society. And I think that's when I realized how deep the meanings behind horror films can actually be. What can we learn as a society from viewing these types of films? Do you think people overlook how important this genre is?
I think they do. I think it comes with a negative stigma. And like any other genre, there's quality and then there also is not quality. So you have to pick and choose. But I think that one of the things that oftentimes is ignored about this genre how it represents the other, that which is different, and how we fear difference as a culture. And that I think directly connects with things like what we call the isms, racism, classism, sexism, ageism. There also are horror films that are just wonderfully filmed. Again, if you think about The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, or you think about Psycho, they're just both are wonderful examples of film techniques. So if you appreciate cinema, if something is done well, then you can appreciate the filming of it, not just necessarily the story of it.
The Institute for the Musical Arts is a nonprofit that serves as a women's retreat, school, and recording studio. But what they're best known for is hosting a rock and roll camp for girls. This August, they're recognizing their 35th anniversary with a festival held at their Goshen compound, and producer Dave Frazier brings us the story.
It's early in the week of a 10-day summer program at the Institute for Musical Arts in Goshen. 12 teenage girls are in Evelyn Harris's vocal class. Some have been to IMA before, but most are here for the first time and want to expand their interest in music.
Music makes me really, really happy. I have had music in my life ever since I was a little kid. Even if I can't pursue it at a professional level, I definitely want to keep playing.
I've been singing basically all my life, so that's kind of just my thing. I also play guitar.
Located on a 200-year-old farm, the Institute for Musical Arts was co-founded by Ann Hackler and June Millington. Millington has been called one of the godmothers of chick rock, a fitting nickname for a woman who, along with her sister Jean, formed the band Fanny in the late 60s, one of the first all-female rock groups to sign with a major record label.
I realized the second year that we were doing it, oh my goodness, I am feeding me. I'm teaching the me I was when I was 16 and we had no support. Yes. We'll work on that phrasing. Some of them, they're real shy. And they need to break out of that shyness, and music is a great way to do that because it shines a light on you, on yourself. We started out working with peers, just women in music, because there was no space for women at all. And then eventually we saw that it was medicine for kids, this music, and for girls, and really, really empowering. And that's why we started working with young people 20 years ago now.
Leah Badnock is from Belchertown and has been coming to IMA since she was 12 years old.
I started out just playing the drums, and now I've picked up piano at IMA and also guitar.
This is Olivia Morey's first year.
I thought that the pictures of the place looked really cool because I like this sort of area. I like being outside, and I thought it would be nice to not have to deal with the pressure of living around boys.
Along with the morning vocal class, the girls learn drums and percussion and music theory. At night, they can take private music lessons in the barn, which doubles as a 3,000-square-foot recording complex with instruments of all kinds, electric and acoustic guitars, drums, and a grand piano.
At the beginning of this week, they're doing their bonding thing. They're all getting on the same page. Some of them are advanced. Some of them have never done anything like this before. So there's a lot of just sort of getting it together, like what's possible here, because it's a big, huge leap that they're taking right now.
The week culminates with a concert that they perform for family and friends.
I guess you say what can make me feel this. Butterflies when you apologize. I get butterflies when you wake up early in the morning, feeling sad like so many of us do. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, Mama.
After the concert, the girls had a chance to reflect back on their week.
I think it was really fun. I've never been a part of a group like this collaborative, this welcoming of each other.
I'm so proud of everyone and what they've done at this camp and the things they accomplished.
Can't believe that it's been 10 whole days. It feels like no time, and I
wish we could have more because it's been amazing, and I'm definitely going to come back next year.
Every week, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England, but it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. June Millington has been making music since she was a child, playing ukulele in her native Philippines. Having moved from Manila to California in the early 60s, she and her sister Jean turned in their folk guitars for electric and formed a succession of all-girl bands. In this week's digital exclusive, learn more about the musical icon behind the Institute for Musical Arts.
Then we get to LA and our lead guitar player quit. And Gene and Alice turned to me and said, well, now you got to play lead. And I was like, what? And so what happened? I got better and better. I made friends with Lowell George of Little Feat and Skunk Baxter of Steely Dan and later Doobie Brothers.
You can find that digital exclusive online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Art and politics have a complex relationship. From late show monologues to editorial cartoons, politics has long been a muse for creativity and commentary, and politicians have used art as a tool to engage and connect with voters, as seen in the many battles over the use of popular music in political campaigns. And the complexity of that relationship has only intensified as divisions have grown. So in this politically polarized world, what lies ahead at the intersection of art and politics? I spoke with political consultant Ryan McCollum to find out.
From the beginning of politics, from the beginning of democracy, art has had an impact on politics because both art and politics are very broad subjects. They have to have an impact on one another. And so whether it's music or poetry or the fine arts, like we talk about when we talk about paintings and drawings and sculptures, but also in campaign art, right? So propaganda, for lack of better words, needs to be appealing to make your case. And so when you're working on a political campaign, the logo, the lawn sign, everything that is part of your campaign should be aesthetically pleasing, right? And that takes artists, whether they're digital artists or hard artists, right? So I think of Shepard Fairey's poster of Obama that said hope, right? That was a very sticky image, to use kind of a marketing term, right? People remembered that poster of Obama done by an artist. And if you go back to JFK, some of his posters were very artsy, for lack of better words. So even when you're running a smaller campaign, the logos can be very important.
The art world tends to lean more towards the liberal side of politics. Why do you think this is the case, and why don't we see more conservative art and artists?
You know, historically, it seems like that in America. I think maybe because, you also can't divorce politics and social movements. And our social movements in America tend to be more progressive and to be more liberal, whether it's the civil rights era or the protest generation during the Vietnam War. And so artists tend to be a little bit more liberal, right? They tend to be, live in more liberal places and have more liberal and free thought ideas, and are usually trying to get across the message of love and peace and change. But that's not to say there's not conservative artists, right? There's plenty of conservative artists. There's plenty of, especially coming out of the faith community, right? So, nowadays, if you look at the country music genre, they tend to be more conservative, and they might not be outright saying, I'm a Trump guy, but they say things that are more conservative about standing up for the national anthem and protecting their Second Amendment rights. So there's not a lack of it. I just think that just through organic, just through time in America, that social change piece and politics are so interwoven that, artists tend to be a bit more liberal.
Political cartoons is another art form that has been around for a really long time. According to Britannica.com, the first known American cartoon was published by Benjamin Franklin in his Pennsylvania Gazette in 1754. So does art that directly comments on or explores politics have any real influence over politicians or the voters?
Definitely. just like satire and just like a monologue, a political cartoon when done, when effective, will give the voter a different aspect that they might not have seen. To make it absurd or to make it ridiculous and to put it into a cartoon format allows your mind to maybe look at that issue in a different way.
The politics of now can be viewed very differently with the passage of time. What role, if any, does art have on how history looks at notable political moments?
Yeah, so again, to keep it pretty local, one of my favorite pieces of political art is in the Springfield Art Museum, the DeMoore Museum, and it's the historic monument of the American Republic. It's a huge painting when you first walk in. And it's done in the romantic sense, in the true sense of romanticism. So it's Roman, right? So it looks like you're in Italy, but all these different events that took place to help form America are in there, right? And the artist is very clever of how he puts those different events in this huge painting that looks like it's some kind of monument in Rome. You know, again, whether it's a bust of Benjamin Franklin himself or it's a statue of this or that, I think it's very interesting. One of the best pieces of art now, in my opinion, is there's a Robert E. Lee statue that has been transformed with graffiti and different pieces of art all over the statue and projection on the statue as almost taking that old piece of art and making it new in politics of now to protest to say Black Lives Matter. And so that piece of art, right, using that medium of a Civil War general who wanted to keep Black people enslaved to now say Black Lives Matter is very interesting.
And that does it for this edition of Connecting Point. Remember, you can always find all of the stories that you saw in this episode, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and so much more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Our thanks to the City of Springfield for hosting us today. And please be sure to join us again every week right here for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Saidalis Bauer. Thanks for watching and take care.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers. Connecting Point on NEPM is brought to you by Berkshire Museum in Pittsfield, presenting Living Ink, the Art of Tattoos, an exhibit exploring the science, art, and culture behind tattooing. More exhibits, events, and membership information at berkshiremuseum.org.
The Bollins changed the course of English history.
Anne and her family are a force to be reckoned with.
Whatever becomes of me, I'm resolved to have him.
No one could have imagined a fall as graphic as the fall of the Boleyn family.
The Story of the Boleyn, Sunday night at 8 on NEPM.
Enjoy a getaway to Austria, where the Vienna Philharmonic pays tribute to the music of Europe, under the baton of Andres Nelsons and featuring guest soloist, cellist Gauthier Capuçon. Join us for the Vienna Philharmonic Summer Night Concert 2022 on Great Performances.
Enjoy the Summer Night Concert Friday at 9 on NEPM.
What we're going to do is we're going to kind of act out some of those roles. I have used PBS Learning Media as a resource for myself as a teacher. I teach video production, so I can simply show a short video, and get the same message out that I want to teach my students. So Joe, you are a camera person. We've actually looked at a few videos where we're looking at the different roles of production. Everyone has to fill a particular role, the actors, the camera person, the lighting. So those kind of videos help get the kids more knowledgeable of what they're supposed to be doing in our class.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
I've always needed something more, something deeper. When I was young, it was fear. Then fear turned to greed.
Nice.
In prison, I tried guilt, but it didn't work. Guilt's about looking back. What I needed is something that can help me now. It's revenge.
A new season of Guilt on Masterpiece Mystery.
The new season of Guilt premieres Sunday night at 9.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
What's happened?
I'm sorry, your husband's dead.
Was he having an affair?
I need a sensible woman. Will you marry me?
We might have a serial killer on our hands.
How do we want to play this?
I don't think we want to just knock.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport on the PBS app. Download it today.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
It's painful, it's shocking, it's devastating. Why would we want to go back and look at this dark, dark time? Our film is unique in that it takes the perspective of the United States. What was our response as a nation? What did we do? What did we know? What could we have done?
The U.S. and the Holocaust premieres September 18th on